is recorded. So anyone who could recap kung siguro gamay ra asa ba ta nag-discuss last time? Anyone? Sige, so kung walay maka-recap, last time we have discussed about vices. Yun, so forms of vices according sa inyong SIM, ipakita ra na ako inyong SIM. Vices are any of those habits or actions which, of course, with the indulgence of those, leads to depravity, wickedness, corruption, or any other negative effect. So, ayun, the importance, nandyan na yan. In order for you to know which of those vices are really considered vices, and the differences nyon between, of course, one vice or gambling, for example, and how is it connected with illegal drug use. Yan. So as we know, there are certain drugs which were used and abused, which makes it a habitual action, habitual indulgence, and makes it a vice. Yan. Last time na ibawan po nato ang mga certain vices, smoking, drinking liquor, in fact, gambling, over use or overindulgence sa caffeine or coffee. Yan. Prostitution. Yan. Indulgence to prostitute, whether male or female. Yan. It's still considered a vice. Yan. Because some others, when they indulge into prostitutes without protection, then they might acquire sickness or illnesses, especially HIV or AIDS, HIV AIDS, or even yung mga other viruses. Yan, other viruses, yan, HPV, human papilloma virus, yan, mahilig sumubo, yan, ng kahit sino lang, yan, hindi yung virus. Yan, HPV, of course, HIV AIDS, yan, yan, immunodeficiency virus, yan, acute immunodeficiency syndrome. Yan. Okay, so yan, alcoholism, alcoholics, yan, prostitution, types of prostitutes, white slavery, the procurement and transportation of women across satellite or across points, across regions for immoral purposes. Yan, white slavery. Yan. Of course, there are different ways. That's still part of trafficking in persons. Yan. Of course, drugs, we have discussed this, their sources, classification, and effects. Again, drug, a chemical substance that brings about physical, physiological, behavioral, or psychological change in a person who takes it. Yan. So, as we all know, may different or two general types of drugs, yung synthetic at yung natural or herbal drugs. Yan. So, that's the reason merong ibang drugs, whether synthetic or natural, hindi lahat harmful. Especially yung mga herbal. Pero just as the saying goes, nakakasama talaga yung sobra. Yan. The overuse or the abuse of something, it's always bad. Yan. So there are 7 categories of drugs in general yan. Herbal drugs are basically based and acquired from plant substances. So they can be grown naturally and locally. Yan, over-the-counter drugs, alam nyo na yan, can be acquired without prescription and is acquired commercially. Yan. Prescription drugs, they are commercially sold, but the requirement is kailangan yung reseta. Prescription from a physician na qualified and registered, or I should say licensed physician. Sunod, unrecognized drugs. Drugs that have psychoactive effects are commercially sold pero wala siyang formal category as the law requires. Yan. Illicit drugs, drugs that are simply pinagbabawal ng batas. And of course, those who will be caught using this would be subject to the violation of the law, subject to incarceration, subject to penalties and fines. Yan. Tobacco or tobacco products, yan. They have this what we call nicotine. Ang nicotine pwede manguya or pwede sunugin and ihit-hit na lang or to ingest it. Yan. So also alcohol, there are different types of alcohol. I will be discussing that. And of course, yung mga regular medicines, whether they are tablet form, capsule form, or in liquid syrup form. Yeah. Dangerous drugs, substance affecting the CNS, central nervous system, that basically tackles or handles the nervous system or affecting the mood of the person taking it, which can bring physical changes, behavioral, and emotional changes. Yan. So drug abuse refer to any non-medical use of drugs that cause physical, psychological, legal, economic, or social damage, not just to the user but those who are affected through it. Yan. So wala pa'y pangutana karon, no? So I will present another slide. Yan. So imagine nyo na lang kung si Dora nagda-drugs, di ba? Yan. Kita niyo yung kamay. Yan. Anyway, so drugs, yun, affecting again the CNS, always the behavior, the emotional stability of the person using it would be the first one na maaatake ng mga drugs, especially those illegal drugs. So, again, when are drugs harmful? When they are taken in excess or sumusobra, especially to those prescription drugs. For example, sleeping pills. Kung sinabi ng doktor, oh, sige, 2 times in 2 days. So, parang daily. Paano kung 5 times ang tinik in 1 day, di ba? So, sleeping drugs, gusto mo nang mamatay niyan or hindi? So, everything that is taken in excess is always wrong or always bad. Dangerous combinations. For example, gisagol nimo ang Centrum sa ingno nato, Lagundi na syrup. Yan. Centrum plus Lagundi. Anong gusto nimong mangyari niyan, di ba? It's a dangerous combination. Or Kremil S, niya gibutang nimo sa Sprite na niya gitumar nimo, di ba? So may tabuan na, kaboom, di ba? Yan. Or those drugs na Tinake ng isang tao na may allergies, which results into hypersensitivity and some skin reactions to the person. And once magkaroon ng allergies ang person, most probably maapekto ang paghinga ng nasabing tao, which can result into myocardial infarction, yun, loss of breathing, and of course, death. Yan. So, commonly, sa modern society, the gang of three ang namumuno sa drugs in general or vices. Like for example, smoking, napakaraming smokers. Yan, I will be discussing to you ano ang components nitong cigarette. Yan. They call this lady cigarette. Kasi originally, nung 1950s, 1940s, it is created for female use originally. Kasi yung sa panlalaki noon, yung mga tabako talaga. Yung, katong mga baga. Okay? Of course, alcoholism, it still includes wine and drugs. Yan, sana sir, neokidilets? No, hindi yan neokidilets. Ecstasy yan. Yan. Di ba? Ecstasy, parang sabon din. Dove. Yan. They're numbered, they're designed, and of course, lahat na yan for you. Yan. So, the reason bakit ang smoking and alcohol is part of the gang of three because they are getaway drugs, di ba? Pati mga mammals, mga reptiles na ninigarilyo rin, yosi na pod sila. Because basically yung existence ng tobacco or tobacco and alcohol is para makawala ang user sa certain problems, especially sa mga adolescents or teens. Yan. So, they are gateway or getaway drugs. Kasi gusto niya makatakas temporarily sa mga problema sa buhay. Yan. So, most common sa mga drug abusers ngayon, they started in a simple way of yung tinatawag na vice. Yan. Cigarette, siguro naninigarilyo yan sila noon to the point na hindi na nagkakaroon ng epekto sa kanila ang paninigarilyo, nagdodroga na sila. So the answer is always yes para sa kanila. It's based on a song. I think it was Nickelback. Yan. Yan. So, the tobacco plant is scientifically known as Nicotiana tabacum, a plant grown for its leaf na yung mga leaves niya, once paughan na, or it would be yung parang niro-roast, yan, tapos hinuhulma, it can be smoked, chewed, or sniffed. Different effects yan. Different level of satisfaction. And of course, nicotiana is also the origin of a certain compound. Yan. Kung saan nanggaling yung addictive compound, it's a chemical called nicotine. Okay? So, sino ba ang nag-introduce commercially ng tobacco? Yan. So, sa Europe, nagsimula yung paggamit ng tobacco, introduced ng napakasikat na si Christopher Columbus. Yan. Kung saan siya din ang nakadiskubre ng Amerika. Yan. Diba? So, chemicals na nasa tobacco or tobacco. Yan. Nicotine. Obviously, that one. That's a very toxic substance. Could kill people. Yan. So, namamatay ang mga tao dyan. Next is carbon monoxide. Kanang same as those products na galing sa tambutso ng isang sasakyan na walang emission test for 15 years. Ganyan. So, yung oxygen sa ating dugo na nawawala if carbon monoxide is in the body and affects the vital organs inside our body, yung mga internal organs. Kaya ang mga maninigarilyo, once na it becomes their habit, characterize sila sa shortness of breath. Yan, mas maikli ang inhalation at exhalation nila, yung breathing style nila compared to those non-smokers. Okay? Another composition, yung tar. That brownish substance. Yan. So tar is the reason bakit malakas ang probability ng cancer, hindi lang lung cancer, ng mga smokers. Yan. One characteristic of those na nagkaroon na ng tar sa kanilang katawan, meron ng pag-iitim sa fingers or yung inside ng nails, yan, nag-iitim na yung mga daliri. The teeth, nagsa-start na yung enamel ng teeth, pati yung gums na umitim, pati yung sa lips. Yan. So, one of the products of having abuse or having too much tar sa body, lung cancer and chronic bronchitis. Yan, shortness of breath. Okay? Let's proceed sa alcohol. Yan, one of the oldest intoxicants known to man. It's considered a depressant. And commonly, it is colorless, tasteless. Yun. Kasi yung lasa ng ibang alcohol beverages nanggaling na yan sa ibang chemicals or for some, nanggaling na yan sa grapes or other products na piniga. Yan. It boils around 78.4 degrees Celsius and it is considered poison to the human body, especially if masyadong marami na. Yan. Of course, in poison, it's like killing you softly. Nauna kang mahihilo and once sumobra na yan, you won't have control over your body. Okay? So, there are two kinds of alcohol. Methyl and ethyl alcohol. Methyl, yan yung poisonous. Yan yung nasa mga hand sanitizers, sa mga rubbing alcohol. Yan, yung 70, 40%, 30%. Methyl. M stands for, yun, that is for medical purposes. Yan. Ethyl, yan yung pwede ma-ingest ng human being. Yan yung nalalagay sa alcoholic drinks with the use of the process called fermentation, kung saan yung mga germs from that liquid called yeast would act on the sugars present, yun, yung glucose, and produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. Yan. Okay? So, questions? Questions. So, next, types of drinkers. Yan. Occasional drinker, yan. Certain occasions lang. Birthday, yung mga less frequent drinkers. Frequent drinkers naman, yung mga 3 to 4 times per week, yan, kada weekend, nagpa-party, yan. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, inom na Red Horse ba na or unsa ba na. Yan. And uses those beverages para mawala yung tension, yung problema, or kana, ipagawas ang gibati ba na mao nang purpose sa uban nga nung magsige sila inom during weekends or every night. Yan, frequent drinkers. Next, regular drinker, mas consistent sila. Hindi lang pang weekends, pwede rin siguro every day or once a day. Yan. So, ang regular drinkers, according sa studies, yung reason bakit nagiging regular drinker sila is dahil sa kultura na kinagisnan nila. Siguro ilang papa or ilang mga older siblings tumutoma. Yan. So, some of this, yung, for example, yung mga mayayaman, they take wine every after they eat their dinner. Siguro every day sila nagwa-wine to enhance the flavor ng food during dinner. And of course, yung mas worse pa sa regular drinker, yung alcohol dependent, yung hindi na mabubuhay kung walang alcohol. Kumbaga, mas marami pa siyang iniinom na alcohol kaysa sa tubig. Yan. Yung plain tubig. Yan. So, alcohol dependents are called alcoholics or alcoholic. Yan. Wala na siyang control sa pag-intake ng kanyang inumin. Yan. Okay? Questions? Questions? Nabay pangutana? Ayo. Ayo. Wala may pangutana? So, also, ipakita ko rin pala yung mga symptoms. Yan, napakita ko na yan last time. 20 to 100 milligrams ang present sa dugo. Yan pa lang. Reduced coordination, mood and behavioral changes. 101 to 200 milligrams. General impairment of thinking. Yan. Trouble walking. Yan. 201 to 300 milligrams. Yan. Memory blackout. Unsay nahitabo? Wait lang. Kinsa gani ko? Asa gani ko? Anong na ako dire? Yan. And of course, magsusuka na yan ng sobra. Diyan na magsisimula. Okay? Then, the next two levels sa blood, those are the worst. Yan. Yung isa, nagka-amnesia na talaga. Yan. Sino nga yung babaeng kasama ko kapo? Asan, paano ako nandito? Ganyan. Or, who am I? Ganyan. Murag si Jackie Chan. And of course, the worst, 800 milligrams, death. Yan. Ang blood pressure, lumiliit na. Breathing rate, humihina na. Temperature, bumababa na. Okay? And of course, before siya mamamatay, common situations, the alcoholic is subjected to coma. O yan, comatose. Yan. So, napakaraming tests na ginagawa. Yan, breath test. Yan, blood test. Tapos, yung pinaka-common and the less reliable, yung urine test. Okay? So, questions? Questions, anyone? Discuss naman ako na sa inyo, ha? Yes, Miss Katunggal, please turn on your mic.
That lang sir nga lang. Sir kanang about sa drugs sir ba kay nagtackle man kag kanang amnesia sir. What if sir kanang naka-commit og crime sir ba niya, di ba? Kung di kay isisi man daw na nila kay wala sila kabalo nga. Nabuhat daw na for example rape ana good sir.
Kana. So, good question. Sige. Good question. What if during the commission of a crime under the influence of drugs? So, yan. That is a state, sabihin natin, for example, ang common yan yung mga nakainom. Diba? For example, nakapatay sila under the state of intoxication. So, that is one of those circumstances naman na sa inyong law na kung asa, he would be first subjected to medical examination. Titingnan ba kung meron pa ba siyang alcohol level sa kanyang katawan. Once na meron pa, hintayin muna na yung, sabihin natin, lasing pa siya, hintayin muna na magkaroon siya ng stable mind in order to testify or have his own account. Yan. So, ang intoxication, I think that is part of alternative circumstances. Depending on the circumstances involved, pwede siyang mapawalang sala. Actually, that's part of alternative or exempting din. Pwede siyang mapawalang sala or pwede rin siya magkaroon ng other mitigating circumstances. Yan. Naman na sa inyong law. Okay? So, once he committed it under the situation na wala siyang control sa pag-iisip, yan, he might have a big chance na ma-acquit siya. Yan. Under the state of intoxication. Okay? Pero if nung time na yon na ginawa niya yung krimen, may control siya sa katawan and then after doon pa siya nalasing, then that would be a reason na he is guilty. Yan. Somehow guilty of his actions. Importante kasi na during the commission of the crime, you are under control of yourself. Kasi kung wala kang control sa sarili mo, then technically, there's a big chance na you will not be guilty. You'll be acquitted of your actions. Okay? So, next, saan na yun? Nawawala na yung isa kong ito pala. So, some medical uses of drugs. Ito. Yung mga examples dito, those are drugs which are generally acceptable, either over-the-counter or prescriptive. Yan. For example, analgesics, pain relievers na. Pain relievers. Relieves pain. Antibiotics, their job is to combat infections internally. Yan. Against yung mga bacteria, mga viruses. Yan. So that's why yung mga antibiotics sa ibang sakit, yun ang ginagamit ngayon ng mga doktor against COVID-19. Yan. Antibiotics. Next, antipyretics. Lowers body temperature or yung pampapababa ng level sa fever. Yan. Siguro ang fever niya due to an internal infection sa katawan. So they use antipyretics para mapababa yung body temperature. Antihistamines, that's for allergies. To control or lessen allergic reactions. Contraceptives, yan. For example, pills. So it prevents meeting of the egg cell and sperm cell or prevent the ovary from releasing eggs or egg cells. Yan. Decongestants, para yan sa ilong. Decongest the passageway sa loob ng nasal cavity. Expectorants, yan yung nagpapalambot sa mucus or yung sa phlegma from the lungs and going to the throat. Siguro, pinapalabas through the mouth. Yan, niluluwa. Kasi kung pinapalabas yan through the nose, decongestants. Laxatives, those that stimulate defecation yan. Or yung nag-encourage na yung tao, yan, pampurga. Yan. Encourage bowel movement. Sedatives, tranquilizers, yan, wala ng anxiety, yung pampakalma. And of course, vitamins. For example, yung mga normal, nucleotides, yan. Multivitamins, still considered. Minerals, ang nandyan, vitamins. Yan. Okay? Next. History of drug abuse, di ba? Last time I have discussed to you about morphine. So, asan ba nanggaling yung pangalan ng morphine? Sino bang nakadiskubre? Okay? So, morphine was discovered noong 1805 ng isang German scientist, si Friedrich Serturner. Friedrich von Serturner. I don't know the complete name yung W. Pero si Friedrich Serturner. He first discovered the derivative ng opium, which is morphine. Kasi ang opium, na-develop siya, and then, in order to control the addiction of opium, na-discover niya yung morphine. Yan. Because he found out na yung morphine is the powerful active ingredient ng opium. How did he derive the word morphine? He based it Sa God of Dreams. Yan. Si Morpheus. Okay? Morphine was derived from the name ng God of Dreams, si Morpheus. Ang nakadiskubre, si Friedrich Sir Turner. Kasi nung panahon, around early 1800s, sa China kasi nagsimula yung Opium War. Kung saan napakaraming tao, if not every one of them, are addicted to the use of opium. 'Di ba? Nagsusmoke sila yung opium poppy. Yan. To the point na maraming mga sindikato, mga gangs ang naglaban-laban and caused a massive war sa China. So yun, in order to control addiction of opium, nagkaroon ng morphine. Ano, the first derivative. The next derivative, in order to control the addiction of morphine, was heroin, or called diacetylmorphine. Yan, a derivative of opium after morphine, I think, yan, around 1898 by the Bayer Company. Yan, a pharmaceutical company in Germany na kung saan yan yung naging cure daw for morphine addiction. Pero, even though it was called a cure, daming na-addict. Samot hinuon sa heroin. Yan. So, of course, China, nung panahon nila, nung 1800s, sila nag-monopolize or nag-solo ng trade and discovery ng opium throughout the world. Yan. So, history ng opium, it was derived nung 5000 BC by the Sumerians kasi tinawag yan nilang the plant of joy or hulgil. Yan. Ang tawag ng mga Sumerians sa opium noon, hulgil. Kasi they were somehow, na-addict din sila, and it made them feel na masaya sila. Kaya the plant of joy because it brings them emotional and psychological joy. Yan. Hindi yung joy na K-pop. Hindi yun siya. Okay? So, general drug classification. First, according to effects tayo. So, drug classification according to effects. First, depressants, slow downs brain activity, also called as downers. Yan, pampababa ng activity ng katawan. Some others use tablets or capsules. Some others use liquid forms. Best example niyan, sleeping pills. Halos mga artista ni nagagamit. Yan. Okay? Depressants. The exact opposite of these downers are called stimulants or yung uppers. Ang silbi nila is to increase alertness and energy. Yan. So, that's the reason why cocaine and other stimulants are used by people in order to sustain a happy level. Kumbaga dito sa Pilipinas gumagamit ang mga use ng shabu or cocaine kasi for the meantime na magkakaroon sila ng trip, nawawala yung problema nila or na-maintain nila yung energy nila sa mga bagay na ginagawa nila. Yan. For example, bus drivers. Di man pwede siguro na tulok ka adlaw straight walay tarong na pahulay. So, gagamit sila ng shabu. Yan. To increase their alertness. Di ba, mag-drive ka, di man mo gusto na mabangga na. Okay? Next, hallucinogens. So, from the word hallucinate. Sa hallucination kasi, meron ka mga bagay na nararamdaman, nakikita, pero wala naman talaga doon. It never existed. Yan. So, these hallucinogens are kinds of drugs na magbibigay sa iyo ng kakaibang trip compared sa stimulants. Best example niyan, yung nakikita nyo, PCP. fancy clothing. Yan. Okay? So, hallucinogens make you see, smell, hear, taste, or feel things which are imaginary or not real. Okay? Next, medyo bilisan ko lang. According to medical pharmacology, these are the classifications. Depressants, again, nagpapababa ng level of activity ng katawan. Narcotics, these are drugs that induces sleep or stupor and pain to the body. Yan. Or I should say, ang pinaka-common na characteristic niya is that these drugs will make you feel numb or numbness. Okay? Tranquilizers, yun. Same lang sa na-discuss ko to lower the activity level. And stimulants, uppers, hallucinogens, makes you hallucinate, and solvents. Yan. Solvents. So, sa best example, yung sinasabi niyong rugby, bulka, nabay mo hit-hit dira o WD-40 na hit-hit og thinner na. So, I will be discussing that later. Yan. Kunting kunting tiis na lang, okay? Next, classification of drugs in legal categories. According to RA 6425, which was repealed by Republic Act number 9165. Okay, so it was classified into three categories. Prohibited drugs, kung saan nandyan yung mga pinagbabawal. Narcotics, stimulants, and hallucinogens. Regulated drugs are those drugs which are regulated to the point na yung distribution at manufacturing nila nililimit not just ng kanilang producers but the government. Like for example, barbiturates, yan. Sleeping pills, yan. Amphetamines, hypnotics. And of course, classification, yung naiba, volatile substances. Substances ng original use is not for human consumption. Like for example, rugby. Yan. Ano sa ba yung proper term sa rugby? Yan. I will discuss that later. Okay? Yan. Classification of dangerous drugs according to effects. First, narcotics, drugs which relieve pain and produce profound sleep. Yan. Nagpapatulog. Of course, sleeping pills. Kasali dyan. Opium, derived from the opium poppy plant. Ang opium poppy, meron siyang scientific name na Papaver somniferum. Yan. Yan. Also known as gum, gamot, kalamay, or yung common noon, panotcha. Okay? So, pinapa-dry yan siya, ginapauga na, and then, it is powderized or somehow, pinapaliit, and then, ibutang na sa isa ka foil, and then, irolyo ang foil na murag sigarilyo. And then, they would smoke. Yan. Okay? Morphine, yan, narcotic drug, used to relieve pain. The history with this is that ang purpose ng morphine is not for public consumption but for soldiers during World War I and II para mabawasan yung sakit na nararamdaman nila during operations. Okay? Heroin is 5 times more powerful than morphine, another derivative of opium. The next derivative of heroin, codeine. Yan ang in order to cure heroin addiction, but it didn't really cure it completely. Yan. It's basically used to cure cough. Yan, either in liquid or tablet form. Yan. Okay? Paregoric, yan, opiate, decreasing intestinal muscle contractions. So, kung naay laxative, mao ni ang exact opposite para dili makalibang ang user. Yan. So, of course, resulta niyan, constipation, sakit ng ulo, and pagsusuka. Di man magawas pababa, so pasaka na lang. Demerol. Yan. Used to treat moderate to severe pain. Then, of course, may barbiturates. Yan, to treat anxiety, insomnia, or yung mga hindi makakatulog. Yan ang tinitake. To the point na inaabuso. Together with Seconal, which is a related drug, yan ang rason na namatay si Marilyn Monroe. Yan. She died because of overdose ng barbiturates. Yan. Certain kind of it, yung Seconals. Some others, some others na namatay niyan, si Judy Garland, Jimi Hendrix, yun, sikat na gitarista, died with overdose of that. Okay? So, I still have around 5 minutes. Huwag bibitaw. Volatile substances. So, they call this volatile kasi they are common sa kanila, flammable. Yan. Because when it is a volatile substance, it is flammable. It releases certain gases na, of course, naamoy ng tao would go into the nose or in the mouth, and it would create devastating effects sa nasal cavity, sa windpipe kanang sa leeg, na going down to the internal organs. So nga nung addicted man jud, for example sa Pilipinas, ang rugby team natin hindi na sa field, nasa streets, di ba? Rugby team natin, igura mo lingkod na, yun, may team na tayo. Because volatile substances would affect the brain, would make the brain dry kasi hindi na uminom ng tubig habang gumagamit. Na-addict na eh. To the point na yung epekto ng mga vapors niyan will diminish the movement of neurons and brain cells sa brain. Kaya naapektuhan yan. And of course, the next internal organ na maapekto, kidneys. Because kidneys are generally salaan. And once maapektuhan ng salaan, boom. Yan. Hindi na makakaihi ng tama. Okay? So, yung sa cigarettes, I promise to you to show the components in making what we call lady cigarettes. So, of course, pasigaan man na nimo, ang lighter na man ay content na butane. Of course, the fire itself, yung flame, would ignite the nicotine, would make the nicotine active. Yung butane, once mixed with nicotine, delikado. Mura kag ni hit-hit o tambutso sa sakyanan for 1 hour straight. Na giabri ni mo imong baba, of course, ang ilong na adira, the same effect, di ba? Butane. Acetic acid, this is highly reactive, especially sa internal organs. The same component in creating vinegar. Cadmium, kaning puti na rolyo dire, yung foil na yan, there is a component dyan made of cadmium. Mao na tong toxic na component in creating and making batteries. Stearic acid. So, of course, itong portion dito, malapit sa boundary, may stearic acid together with the coating nitong puti na portion ng cigarette. Yung stearic acid involves the dangerous forms of wax na commonly nasa candles. Hexamine, barbecue lighter, na itong mga blowtorch, yan, once masunog na yung nicotine, methane, or kanang gas gikan sa septic tank, na delikado na, highly explosive and also highly dangerous once inhaled or once the vapors goes inside to the lungs. Na. So, may nicotine, ammonia, toilet cleaner, or for example, katong liquid sosa. Ang component in the coating of this. That's why it is generally smooth. Kanipod, kaning diri na portion sa kanang kaning brown ba ni? Orange portion. Of course, ammonia together with paint, which of course every paint has a certain composition of methanol, 'di ba? Diri ang baba. For example, nandyan yung bunganga. Imong laway, mag-exchange man na sa components dito. So ang methanol, murag mag-ingest pod ka og pintura. So mao na composition sa cigarette. Okay? So questions? Questions? So kung wala may pangutana, I will be posting by the way yung let's check pati yung mga activities na iba during the week, and then your exam will be on Friday. Okay? So, na-check man ako itong mga pangalan sa permits, itong permits sa may mga scholarship grants. Katong walay scholarship grants, you can just pass your permit. And then, bag-uho na ako na ang inyong exam open throughout Friday, pero wala ng attempts. Yan. Humana ako ang honeymoon period, and then 1 hour lang na wala na extension. Okay? So, if you don't have any questions, thank you for listening and good afternoon sa inyo ha.